Talk to me, to me. Talk to me, to me. Majestic talks. Come and talk to me. Talk to me, to me. Majestic talks. Come and talk to me. Majestic talks. Come and talk to me.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Majestic Talk Show. I'm Latasha Morgan, certified Christian life coach, certified professional life coach, board certified master Christian mental health coach, and a whole lot of other goodies, y'all. We are here for the first show of this season 5, and we're going to be talking about this whole year, slavery and its effect on our mental health today. Today, we're going to be talking about silent scars, okay? We're going to be talking about how physical violence from slavery affects us today. We have a guest today, Dr. Rhonda Turner. She's back again with us this year, and we're going to be talking about that with her. Listen, I wanted to do this theme this year simply because I felt like a lot of the things from slavery still affects our mental health today. Some of the things that happened during slavery were physical violence mostly, and sometimes it was done just for the fun of it. There was physical violence, so we talk physical violence where you had beatings and whippings and stuff. You had sexual violence taking place during slavery time. You had psychological and emotional violence, medical violence, and experimentation. And listen, there was a lot of violence going on during slavery. And I think we don't take the time to understand what our history is. Instead, we just ignore it and say, well, that happened then. It doesn't affect us now. But there's a lot of what happened then, especially because there was no mental health. There wasn't any mental health providers then. So who could they go to talk to? Who would help them solve the problems that they were facing then? No one. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to welcome Dr. Rhonda Turner to the stage. Hi, Dr. Turner. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Miss Latasha?
I am blessed. I don't know why I can't see you.
You can't see me. I can see me.
Yeah, but I can't see you here. So, but I what the problem is, but we're
But
gonna go
you
ahead
just
anyway. Huh?
oh wow. But you can hear me, but you can't see me.
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can look at you over here though. So long
I
as I
can't see
know
me
that.
either no more. You took me down. You took me down. There you okay. You put me back up. Bigger, bigger. There you go.
No, it's fine to have them both separated. So that when you speak, it's focused on you. So let's go ahead and get into it. We already talked about the kind of violences that went on during slavery. However, what I did not do is go through each one of them. So you had, when we talk about physical violence, we're talking about beatings and whippings. Enslaved people were often whipped with leather straps, rods, or other brutal tools for perceived disobedience. These whippings could be severe enough to leave permanent scars. They also branded them, they mutilated them, they did hobbling, and I didn't even know what that was. Hobbling is enslaved individuals caught trying to escape were
Yeah.
sometimes hobbled by the legs. Their legs were broken or
Yeah.
tendons were cut to prevent them from running away. And now reading that, I remember that from some of the stories I read in some slavery books and the movies that I watched and the documentaries that I watched. See, honey, I prepared for this, Dr. Rhonda.
I see. You don't even need me. I don't know why you just saying just do what you do. Do what you do. You know, teaching me a little bit. Go ahead.
So they also did the lynching, of course. We know that in public executions, you'll know that they used to actually, in order to make sure the other slaves knew what would happen if they got out of line, you know, they did. They would do public executions and public beatings. They would whoop you in front of everybody. There are some plantations that would tie the people up to a tree, and they would put gasoline under their feet and sometimes over them and set them on fire.
Yeah. Latasha, listen. Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for having me on your show. This is such a conversation because many of the challenges we face today, whether in relationships, family, communities, are deeply rooted historical experiences that have been passed down generation. So this is a heavy topic.
It is.
And many of us don't want to talk about it.
Rhonda, before we go deep in, because you know we're gonna start having a huge conversation after a while.
You know, so we will.
We go too deep. Let's go ahead and let everybody know where you're from, what you do, and I'll introduce yourself to everyone.
So I am from West Palm Beach, Florida. So I am that sunshine. I'm in that sunshine state in Florida. And I am a high school counselor, but I have my degree in mental health, marriage, and family. And I do so many things in my community or for women that it's just, we don't have enough time to even talk about that. So, so therefore, that's where I am. And I've been married for 27 years, 5 kids. So I'm so honored to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. I really am, because I always love talking to you on the show and any other time if we could, and whenever we remember after the show last time we had a great conversation.
Yes,
I
we
really
did.
love talking to you.
We stayed more time after the show together than we did on the show. But hey, listen, and let people know we never met face to face. This is all virtual. This is all virtual.
Yeah.
So you can build relationships virtually.
Because I don't know what it was. I just love talking to you before we started the show the last time. But see, that's the thing we don't have a lot of because of a lot of the oppressions and stuff that our ancestors faced. All of that stuff transferred down to us. And we're still dealing with it now, but instead of dealing with it, we are ignoring it, like I said earlier. And that's part of the problem. You know, there's a saying that if you don't know your history, you're subject to repeat it.
Oh, yeah. And some people trying to make us repeat it.
Right. That's true too. But if you don't know what your history is, you don't see the signs.
Well, this is what I say. If you don't know where you come from, how you going to know where you're going?
That's true too. That's true too. And you get stuck in places you shouldn't be at when you could have
That's right.
learned from the people that came before you by
That's right.
knowing the history before you. Because nothing that is happening now is new. The Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. Satan doesn't do anything different. It just seemed different to us because we don't pay attention to it.
That's right.
And I mean, the violence going on now is the same violence that happened back then. We talk about black on black crime, we talk about domestic violence, and we seem to think that black on black crime is the most crime that's happening, and that's not true. It's just what's mentioned. There's white on white crime, there's Hispanic on Hispanic crime, there's all kind of different races on different race on race crime everywhere. It's not just black on black crime. And so that's a myth. That's what people want us to think. That's what they want us to know. Because then we start saying, before I said it, and then we start thinking that our ancestors just took whatever was given to them. And that's not true. Because I often hear people say, and we was talking about this earlier, I often hear people say, and I saw it today somewhere online, that we are not our ancestors. In other words, listen, the stuff they took, we're not going to take. We're not going to be your slave. We're not going to do all that. You're not going to call us niggas and get away with it. We're not going to accept that. But here's the problem.
It's happening.
Yes. And
it might not be happening as bad as it was, but it's happening.
And the thing is, our ancestors weren't jelly bats. They weren't weak. They were very strong and courageous. The things they came up to make sure some people got free, even if they didn't get free themselves, the codes and songs and different things, stories and books and stuff. I mean, come on, people. You should be saying we are our ancestors, because without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. Without them, we wouldn't have the opportunities and the resources that we have today. They fought it. That's why now you're losing a lot of your resources now, simply because nobody really is fighting for it, are they? And because we're not seeing, we got so comfortable that
that's what it is. Comfortable.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We've gotten so comfortable that we don't pay attention to what happened then, because, y'all, listen, that was back in the day. Nobody's racist. Nobody's going to do this stuff today. That's not true. They don't really have to do it to you, because you are doing it yourself because of what took place in slavery. They ensured that you would continue the whole process. So technically, you're still in slavery. You haven't left slavery yet. You're still there.
And they just, listen, we what we don't understand is, yes, we're not exactly where we were, but we're not too shy from it. And then we get in our own culture and treat each other like they're not worthy of anything. And that is something that we must work on as a culture.
But though, that comes from then too, because in plantations, they would put Black people against each other.
Oh yeah.
They would they had colorism. So that means that the people that were light skinned would think of themselves more highly than the people that were dark.
Yeah, you was in the house. You was in the master's house, Tasha. Yeah. You would have been in the master's house. You weren't going to be working in the field.
Don't.
You know it.
I know. Rhonda, they may have put me out there in my mouth. They may have put me out there. Now.
Nuh-uh. I'm going to tell you something. Back then, you would have learned your place. If you would have learned. They would have said, get in that kitchen and cook me up some mess.
I think I would have been like more of a Harriet Tubman back in the day. And I probably would.
We need some Harriet Tubmans now. We need some Harriet Tubmans now.
No, but we too sleep. We're asleep. Like I said, we don't see the connections from now and back then.
Girl,
and so, like I said,
I got to fail myself. What you say? We too sleep?
Yeah, we're asleep.
They better wake
because
up.
we really don't believe and we don't really think that what is going on now is affecting us. What was going on then is still affecting us today. You
Right.
still see sexual violence. You still see rape and sexual assault, forced breeding. They did that then. Some people would consider bucks.
Yeah.
Some men would consider bucks. And you also sleep. Now, this is not for this show, for one of the other shows though. But I also now understand why we had a lot of sexual violence amongst with incest and stuff like
Oh
that,
yeah.
molestation and all of that
Oh
came
yeah.
from then. I did not know and was not aware that when they would do the breeding, they would blindfold the man or the boy, and they did not know who they were having sex with. It could have been their grandmama, could have been their aunt, could have been their cousin, their sister, their mama, and that's why the lines were erased.
And we all some kin, huh? Some kind of way.
Well, that's true too. That's true too, because all of that, and I know y'all, we're not talking about sexual violence today, but that's all violence. We're talking about violence. So
Right.
that goes with this too. But I did not know that. I didn't know
And,
that.
and one of the other things that we didn't realize, family, yeah, they had families back then, but they separated our families.
Mm-hmm.
Sold them off. You know, that's I cannot imagine me not being raised by, my grandparents, like, who raised me, but just sold them off. And they not, they're not as lucky as we are to have cell phones and all of that to keep in contact with each other. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't know where their family was. So they didn't care. They wanted us to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care about us suffering. Let me put it that way. They didn't care
That's
about us
true.
suffering.
That's true. That is so true. And they wanted to make sure that you continue to suffer, like I said, for decades to come. Even though you were free during the emancipation, none of these things stopped then. Psychological and emotional violence. You had the Jim Crow laws, and all of that.
Yeah.
So nothing stopped. The family separation and all of that, they still separated you from your family because they made laws here in the South so that they can still have the slave force here to do their farming and all of that.
Right.
Because so what they would do is they would catch you somewhere and you didn't have to be doing anything wrong. All they had to do is say that you were disobeying, breaking the law, and they can put you in prison because the only way they can get you be a slave is to put you in prison. Isn't that still happening today?
Yeah.
Look at how many black people are in prison now.
They just built it in a different type of manner.
Yeah, and then look how some of the prisons look.
And
They
look how
they
and look how they say you can't beat your children, but then they put them in the jailhouse and they beat them.
right. That's true
Yeah.
too. That's true. So verbal abuse and stuff like that. You have that in domestic violence, verbal abuse. Then you have psychological abuse. All of that, those things happen today still,
Yeah.
and we are doing it to the people that we say we love. And guess what these people said? Sometimes they told the people that they love them.
Oh yeah. I'm doing it because I love you.
Mm-hmm. And hey, you're a slave because that's what God intended you to do. You're dumb and you're stupid. And guess what? We believe that today. We still believe we dumb
And
because
ignorant.
we actually do believe that we're not capable of doing anything, and that's why we go to the streets.
Hmm.
Because we feel like we're good at that.
Some of
Because
them don't even
sometimes,
have to go to the streets to carry on like that. Some of them carry on like that on their job.
yeah, that's true too. But I'm saying, how, you see so many music videos and they have all of that stuff in their life. It's so good to be a drug addict. It's so good to sell drugs and do all of that. And then guess where you be? in the same prison that your ancestors were in. It's just a different form.
That's it.
So we were talking about domestic violence. So a few moments ago. Now I know you have a story about that, about your life, because I know the last time you were on the show, you talked about how you would love to come back and tell your story. So we're going to get in there because I want to make sure that you tell everyone your story. So, but I want to give people some examples of the people who went through violence during physical violence during slavery. You have Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass talked about he was one of the most famous abolitionists and former enslaved people. Now, he endured severe beatings, particularly from a notorious slave breaker named Edward Covey. He was known for his brutality, and Douglass later described in his autobiography, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, how he was whipped almost daily for 6 months until he resisted and fought back. Now, Frederick Douglass did.
He said, I'm not taking this beat no more. This is it.
That's just one example of people didn't take stuff like we think they did. Because he told that man up. He fought back. Then you have Harriet Tubman. As a child, now she was heavy piece of metal weight was thrown at her. And because she refused to help restrain someone else that was trying to get another slave that was trying to get away, that was trying to escape. Now, she suffered lifelong health issues because of that. You know, she would just fall asleep at certain times during the day or night, and she wouldn't know that it happened to her. But she used that and she turned that around, and she used that as if God was talking to her when she was asleep. And so that helped her rescue people during the Underground Railroad. Now, Gordon, and this is the last one I'm going to talk about, he was known as Whip Peter. Now, this is an enslaved man that had escaped the Louisiana plantation in 1863. And he left and he reached the Union Army lines. And those photos can be found online, where you see how his back, how he had been beat so much that the keloid were there. He had those kind of scars, and his back was so and it looked so awful. Okay, so in domestic violence, isn't that something that people, they tell you deserve this, you brought this on yourself?
Well, they might say it in their own different way, but they do make you feel like they know what they're talking about. They try to make you feel like you just you better listen, because I know what I'm talking about, and you're not doing right. You didn't do right. You didn't wash them dishes the way I told you to wash them dishes, or you didn't cook the way I told you to cook. So there's consequences behind your action. So, or you didn't wear what I told you to put on. You put them pants on, and I did not like that. And then you go out there and walk in front of all these people. So yeah, they try to make you feel like you have lost your mind.
And so that's what they tell the people the slaves back then too. You brought this upon yourself. See, I tried to treat you nice. Now that's what they told Cecilia. He her slave owner, and there were other slaves that they told that too, because one slave, and I can't remember her name, her name was Harriet. I believe her name was Harriet. And Harriet Jacobs, I believe it was. She was told by her slave owner that because she would not take his advances, sexual advances, that the things that took place and happened were all because of her. Because she didn't submit to his advances. She had, you know what she did? In order to keep him from actually acting out on what he said he wanted to do, she went and slept with another white man and got pregnant. She did that twice. Because she thought that if she got pregnant, he would release her and let her go.
Why he thought that?
So, hmm,
Why did she think that?
I
That
don't
wasn't right.
know. She just thought because he would be so disgusted and so angry, that he would sell her. And what she had
Yeah,
planned to do is let other man that she slept with buy her and her children. That way he would free them as well.
yeah.
Or let her grandma buy them. Because her grandma at the time was free then, because she had bought her own freedom. So I think people probably think, I think you probably think out there, the ones that listen, that that can't really be true, right? How do you know, what scientific backing do you have that these things can be transferred down to trauma can be transferred down to generations? If there is a term called intergenerational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was something that was new to me. It's called epigenetics, biological changes. Stress and trauma can alter gene expression, which can be inherited by future generations. Studies have shown that descendants of trauma survivors, even Holocaust victims, may have higher stress hormone levels, making them more prone to anxiety, depression, and PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I did not know that. There are some examples of intergenerational trauma: African Americans in slavery, indigenous communities, and like I said, Holocaust survivor descendants. But we're talking about African Americans at the moment. So the trauma of enslavement, forced family separations, and systematic racism has led to persistent stress, economic disparities, and mental health struggles in Black communities today. And you don't really believe that we're going through mental health issues? Oh, that don't affect Black people. Yes, it does. Because Black people live in flight or
Well,
fight
who,
mode.
who
You
said that?
always, huh?
Who said that don't affect Black people?
You know, you know, people always hollering about Black people are exempt from this, or Black people,
Listen, let me tell you, when it comes down to mental health don't have a color.
Mm-hmm. You're so
Okay,
right.
it does not have a color. So we
No.
need to be very mindful when we say Black people can't have mental health problems.
And that's why we don't go get the mental health help that we need. We don't talk to medical providers. And I know in my studies it said one of the reasons we don't is because there's only like 4% Black people that actually are mental health providers. And that
Right.
could be one of the reasons why Black people don't go get the help, the mental health assistance that they need. But I want to talk about you, right?
Okay, let me
Because
go back to that. Let me go back to that right quick. Because we can't say that that's the only reason. I believe that because our bringing up, how we were brought up in our culture, you don't take nothing out this household. So you don't need no counseling. You ain't crazy. You know? So you don't need to go talk to nobody. You better get in there and get on them knees and talk to God. So that's how a lot of people was, raised. You don't take your issues or your burdens to a therapist or a counselor. So I think that has a lot to do with why they're not doing that. Now you
yeah,
get into the other stage of life where people are believing in that more. So by the time our kids, well, the kids get up there in age, they're gonna be okay. It's okay to go to a counselor. My grandmama told me it's okay. So I think we have to look at it in a lot in that manner. It's what we was taught, that we taught our kids, that if we don't change it, if we don't break that cycle, that our kids understand that it is okay to go and talk to someone, because sometimes they're not going to tell us everything. And we know that. Sometimes you need to unwind and tell somebody what you're going through. So you can find out, how can I get the help? What tools can I get to help me get better? So I just wanted to say that on that part.
yeah. But I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm saying
No, I
that,
was just saying I wanted people in the audience to know that
yeah,
that
yeah.
right there, it is more than just, you know, that.
Yeah, there are several different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is true too. That's true. We do. Black people have always said, "What goes on this in this house, stay in this house," and that's why stuff keeps going. That's what, and that's exactly why we're having this conversation. It keeps going and going and going from one generation to the next. Domestic violence transfers to one generation to the next, or sexual violence, and a lot. It
Yeah. And
makes
why do we
one
feel it's
guilt.
okay for your uncle to be touching your child? I just, that is not okay. That is just not
No,
okay. Do you
no.
understand what you're gonna put that child through later on in the life, and the tools that she's gonna need to survive in this world? Because
Hmm.
she doesn't, as a little child, you don't know any better. You believe that uncle is supposed to do that because uncle says it's all right.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry. Don't get me
No,
started, girl. Don't get me started on that.
that's why I'm gonna give you a lot, good bit of time so you can tell your story too. Because, like I said, people need to know. I've given examples of back then how people face violence during slavery. I want people to know in these days how we face it as well, and what. And after you finish, we're going to talk about how we can heal from intergenerational trauma. Okay, so I have a few things that we can do to heal from it, but I want to make sure that we get your story in, because I want people to heal from PTSD, anxiety, depression, the experiences they are facing with domestic violence and all of that. All of these things have an effect from slavery. Whether you believe it or not, is not an excuse.
Right.
Now, because you have a free will. God gave us all a free will. That was one major blessing that God gave us all when He created us. Free will. So, in other words, you can make the decision not to do it. It's not an excuse for you to continue the same way you've been going.
It's not.
Okay, but I don't want to get to the end yet, but I want to talk about your story with domestic violence.
Oh, okay. So you're looking at a grown woman now. Ha, ha. And in my high school years, I met my oldest kid's father, and I thought I well, anyway, I met my oldest kid's father, and everything. When you first get into a relationship, you figure that everything was good, and he brought me some McDonald's because my parents didn't play by that McDonald's. They cooked. So you can't eat all that, how we take our kids now. Let's go I go get you something from McDonald's. My grandparents didn't believe in that. They believed in cooking and putting the food on the table, not you go get your plate and you go sit somewhere else and eat. They believe in putting that food on the table and you come sit to the table and you have dinner together. But I I met him, and I thought he was just so fine. Fine is fine. And I'm talking about him past tense because now he's deceased. But over the years, I thought that it was amazing to have someone like him. But then by I had a child from him, my 12th grade, my 11th grade year, and then I got pregnant again and had a child my 12th grade year. And I think that's when I think he believed that he believed that he owned me. Um, you know what that own mean? I can I can tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and what not to do. And I live with my mom and them, and my grandparents. So I was like, oh, okay, certain things you can do. But then it got real bad when we got our own place, and the abuse just really started. And I just remember one time I had some pants and he didn't like the pants. I don't know, and I was real skinny, and so he didn't like the pants. So he took some scissors and just cut them up. Didn't I tell you not to wear them no more? And I was like, okay. And see me being a little small little frame girl, and he was a big guy. I was like, oh, okay. And I couldn't say much because I was afraid. I was afraid. So a lot of times women be afraid and don't know how to use their voice. And I didn't know how to use my voice. But over time, it just did not get into better. And I love to talk about a couple of incidents that I went through that I still stayed because I was afraid of getting out. But eventually, one day, I decided that I can't take it anymore. I had started going to Bible study with my friend. I was like, listen, we got to pray, and we got to pray hard. And my grandfather was a pastor, but of course, you don't go tell your parents what's going on with your life. Now they may know, but they waiting on you to tell them. Correct?
Yeah, that's true.
They most of the time they might ask you, and you're gonna be like, no, everything is fine and all of that. But I remember one time we got into it, and he, me and him, we were fighting, and I left the area, and then I went and started hanging out with my friend. I say, okay, well, we went to Walmart. We went and got us some all three of us got us some clothes alike, some shorts and stuff alike to hang out. And I didn't hang out in clubs. But I said, I'm gonna go out. Since he done made me mad, child, I went out. And next thing I know, the club was over. And the next thing I know, I heard somebody say, you saw Rhonda? And they said, I saw her a few minutes ago, but I heard it. Then next thing you know, not 2 seconds left, I was off my feet in the air and said, get in the sky. He left my car to where it was at that time. And he took me and he put me in the garage and said, and cut the phone wire in my house so I couldn't call nobody for help. She looking like, yeah, stuff, yeah, this not no soap opera. This is real life. Okay. So those are kind of some of the things I truly went through and like was afraid to you. And then they get to the point they tell you, well, they're sorry and this and that. It was another time. Look at Tasha. Come on, Tasha. Come on. You're not making it easy for me to tell my story. So one day we fighting in the house. And you know, when I say fighting, I mean we ain't doing too much fighting. He doing a lot of hitting. Okay. So he was like, after I had to actually call his friend to come get him off of me. His friend was in the living room because you know how these friends don't intervene. They be like, no, that's their business. And you hear me in here hollering and carrying on. But anyway, with that being said, after all of that, and his friend finally came in there to get him. He asked me, do I want to stay home and make up or go to the fair? I want to go to the fair. I ain't care. I ain't care how I look. I ain't care how many tears. I'm not going to be in this house with you talking about making up nothing. So that night we went to the fair with him and his friend and his girlfriend or whatever. And that night I think he won me like 13 stuffed animals, not the little ones. I mean big ones. And I guess he thought that was like, okay, let me make this up to her. No. And all in my mind, and I guess people be like, well, why didn't you jump out the window? Why didn't you do that? Fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear back then. Being a young mother, it was fear. And the plus part at that time, my children was not at the house. They was at my grandmother's house. And so they didn't get a chance to see that day. And I would say, I can try to jump out the window. It's only me and just take off. But everything go through your mind. And okay, I'm not faster than him. He gonna be done called me. He was a awesome football player and this and that. I was like, I was just too afraid, afraid. So another time we had it out again, and I went out with these friends again. And so I'm talking to this guy on the car, but we just friends, we just classmates. And then he was like, well, where's such and such? And I was like, I don't know. We're not together no more. And then the car just stopped right there, like, right there in the middle of the road. In the middle of the road. Like, you got people on this side, you got people on that side, and that car just stopped. And he got out the car with a crowbar in his hand, and he said, BITCH, get in this car. And the guy was like, I just asked you, because all of them thought that he was like crazy. I didn't see it. But you know, when you're in love, when you think you're in love, you don't see it. But and so my friend was like, Rhonda, just get in her car, And I was like, I'm not gonna get in this car because he's gonna break them windows. Because I saw what he had in his hand, and I knew he was kind of off the rockers when it came down to certain things. So I didn't get in the car, but he had me get on the driver's side, get in the car, and he kicked me in the car in front of all these people. Just kicked me in the car. And I was like, you know, when you think that you have kids from somebody, you think that you have to put up with a whole lot of foolishness. And so I think that's why I put up with a whole lot of foolishness. But that night, that night was when a light bulb came on, because I went to my friend's house to get my purse. He took me to pick up my kids from my grandfather's house. So when I got into my grandfather's house, he said, youngin, you know how they talk back then, youngin, what's wrong with you? And at that point, I told him, he keep beating on me. And my granddaddy said, he had a gun at the table. And he said, he came in, because I guess he thought I was going to stay. So he came in, and my granddaddy said to him, why you keep beating on her? What if she did the same thing to you? He said to my granddaddy, that was shocked the hell out of him. Right then, I knew that boy knew I was scared of him. I was terrified of him. And that's when I started making my exit. I wasn't supposed to be crying.
That's all right. That's okay. This is a safe environment.
I think about my grandfather, and you know, they knew, but they just would never say too much to me. So I started making my exit plans. Many people knew what type of a person he was. Some respected him and some didn't. But that was a challenge for me. Getting out was a challenge for me. And I actually asked him to leave. But of course, you know how that went, right? I'm not leaving. Where I gotta go, because it was my place. Where can I go? Where can I go? And I was like, oh yeah. He said, well, just give me a little time. So as I was giving him a little time, I started dealing with somebody, not really dealing with somebody else, but helping me get out of the situation. And I did not know, like, I would go hang out. And one day I came back. From hanging out. My friend around the corner dropped me back off to my house. And he was in there, and, you know, I said I don't want this relationship, so I was trying to give him time. But he was in there, and so I got in the room, went to bed. I passed by and spoke, went to bed, and he came in and he took down my, I don't know, this is a private show, and he checked me to see if I was doing something else out there in the world. Yeah. And then he said, you think I'm stupid, don't you? And I was like, what are you talking about? So I actually just escaped out my house, ran out my house, and went back over to my friend's house, and we called the police. So a lot of people don't know. I mean, it's in one of the books that I kind of I am in, but a lot of people don't know. It takes a lot to get out of that situation, and there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I wouldn't have put up with that," but sometimes you don't know what you would have put up with. Because I wouldn't. Now I can say, "Heck no, I ain't doing all of that," you know. But because I went through it, I learned from it. I was able to say, now I'm able to say I'm stronger and I'm better. And I
Yeah.
had a test that now I have a testimony for. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so God blessed me with an amazing husband now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
thank God I was never married to him, but I have kids from him. But God blessed me. I'm gonna bless you for all the trials and tribulations and all the pain you went through. And that's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he did. Of course, I didn't see that, but I know better now. I know better now. But it took a while for him to get it, get the message. And I actually told him, you know, one day he was like, okay, I'm gonna go back. I'm going to my mom's house. And I said, okay. Wait, before that, one day I was going and I was saying that my friend was saying, we going to Bible study. My friend was she was saved at that time. So she was like, well, Rhonda, come with me to Bible study. I go out there to go to Bible study, get in the car. And he said, and why you, because he stayed in his room because he called himself was doing something, construction or whatever. But so he stayed in his room all the time with the door closed. Didn't know why, but because I had asked him to leave, we wasn't really dealing with each other like that. But I was leaving out the house and he says to me, I said I was going to Bible study. He said, pray for this nigga. And he said this guy name. And I was like, what? What is he talking about? And I was like, okay. So I was telling my friend, I said, oh, he gonna kill me when I get back. So she was like, Ron, you gonna be okay and stuff. But it never happened. So when I came home, he actually threw this equipment in my lap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the
Mm-hmm.
equipment was back then you had the Walkman.
Mm-hmm.
So the cords to the Walkman, he had
Mm-hmm.
finagled it to listen to my conversation on the phone every time that's why the door was closed and he had done finagled it and had us and was listening to it when I was talking to my mom, when I talked to my friend, when I talked to he had done listened to all to my I'm calm. But I asked you to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So he finally left. One day he said, okay, he left. He called me and he was like, come get me. And I was like, no, in order to make this work, I can't.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I was starting getting stronger because that was just it for me. But then I get a knock at the door at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, can this be? It was him. And took his stepdad truck, came and like that was probably what 20 to 30 minutes away from me.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the truck because he just knew I had somebody in the house. Yeah, I had my children in there.
Mm-hmm.
So when he knocked on the door, I still see him sitting on that end chair. And he says to me, why you wouldn't come get me? And he walking around the house. I said, because we can't make this work. And I said, well, because I felt something funny. And I said, well, let me call Mom. I got to call Mom because such. I picked up the phone. He had done cut my phone wire again.
Mm-mm.
And I said to him, why you keep doing that? Why do you keep cutting my? And I knew he thought I had somebody in the house.
No.
Yeah. So that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of my story. And it's not all of it, but it's a good to know what abuse is.
Yeah.
Recognize what abuse is.
Wow.
It was serious.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't think it's serious and you stay in certain things. We have to know when to get out.
Yes.
But a lot of time when you in it, it's hard to know. And it's truly hard to know. But I'm glad that I was one of the ones that made it out.
Yeah. Because a lot of people don't. You're so right.
Yeah, I'm glad I was one of the ones that made it out. And to be honest, we were never really friends after.
Hmm.
Like never. Like Like, you know how some mothers and fathers, they get along real good?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't like that. You know, he always would tell people bad things, try to tell people bad things about me. And then when people realize, they'd be like, golly, you know, he even tried to tell his biological dad would come and spend some time with the kids. And he would tell his daddy would be like, what? Boy, that don't even make no sense. He would tell my kids, he would tell my son some crazy stuff, and we'd be like, boy, okay, I don't need to talk to him no more. I don't want to talk to him no more. Nothing. So it was always something. So I
Mm-hmm.
just disconnected myself with him, period.
That's an amazing one, Rhonda. You never know what people have faced until
I know,
you actually sit down and talk to them.
I know.
Because you don't look nothing like what you've been through.
And I thank God he brought me out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What made you so how did that shape you? What were your emotional and mental challenges as a result of that experience?
Um, self-esteem. My
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem was very low.
How
Um,
did
go ahead.
why, how did you I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you.
Oh,
uh,
you good.
Okay. How did you heal from that? How did you start the process of healing from that?
Well, I was a church girl anyway, so I already knew God. Um, so the more and more I got closer to him, I understood it better. I understood that that was a, a season for me, because sometimes we go through things, but we don't learn anything from it. So we continue to go through things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt helpless for one at a certain time in my life. But where I'm at today, I'm able to help others,
Mm-hmm.
not just in domestic violence, not just from abuse, but empowering women to know that you can be anything you want to be. Because, see, I was told that, okay, she graduated from high school, she had 2 kids, she wasn't going to do nothing but be baby maker. But
Oh my.
you sitting with somebody with a bachelor's degree and a master's
Mm-hmm.
degree,
Mm-hmm.
married for 27 years, and I have my honorary doctorate degree.
Mm-hmm.
So
You do.
I have more than some people that do have it together have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was not gonna let one of my biggest things was I was gonna get my bachelor's degree before my oldest child graduated from high school, because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted him to know that this is what you need in life.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
true. That's good. That's good, Dr. Rhonda. Dr. Turner, that is amazing. That's amazing. And you are such a great and wonderful person too, regardless of what you experience. So, what was the turning point when you realized you needed to begin the healing process? What sparked that shift from you going through the domestic violence and accepting that domestic violence and believing, maybe you believe it was okay, to changing direction and saying, I gotta let this go?
My children.
Okay.
My children. One of the things I do understand, I was raised by my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And being raised by my grandparents, I thank God for that though,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know where I would have been if I wasn't. Not saying that my real parents wasn't gonna mount to nothing, but I was able to know who God is because my grandfather was a minister. But one of the things I will always say is that because I couldn't experience what my what my friends was able to experience, they had their parents, they had their mama, that wanted to take them to the shop, take them to the mall. I had to be a tag along with my friends because my grandparents wasn't taking us to the mall. That's not something they was
Mm-hmm.
going to do. My grandparents would put us with people from the church to do certain things. But when I see my friends, they say, oh, my mom taking me to the mall. I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that at all. So one of the things that I was going to do with my kids was make sure I was in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Did my grandmother help me? Yes, she did. But I was going to make sure that I was going to take care of my kids. I had them, I was going to take care of them.
That's good. That is good. So when we're talking about generational trauma, we have to do something to stop the cycle, right? We have to do something to break the cycle of generational trauma. What I see what happened with you is you acknowledged the pain. You
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
just shy away from it. And
I did that first time. Don't get it twisted
but
now. It ain't always been out there.
no, I'm not saying that you didn't hide from it in the beginning. What I'm saying is that at some point you acknowledge the pain, and
Yeah.
that caused you to start going towards healing.
When I've always worked with young teenage girls, and they would know some of the stuff. They didn't know like details, but I would talk about some things to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what happened to me when was part of the first anthology I was in, and I wrote my story down. See, sometimes we can talk about it, but then when we write it down and able to reread, and I was like, oh wow, I
Mm-hmm.
went through that. Oh my goodness, knowing that I went through it, but when I reread it, I just cried, and I felt it was like you over the years because you had kids and you had other things. I put that band-aid over it and just
Mm-hmm.
let that band-aid stay there until it got to the point where the band-aid came out and all that stuff started coming out again because I was not healed. But when I wrote my first book and I was able to read it to myself and thank God for where he brought me from. And I was not a street kid. I was not a homeless kid. I was not none of that. They took my grandparents took real good care of us. But we did not have that. We had that grandparents that tell you, okay, you're going to church Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or you can't be on the phones and different stuff like that. Not, don't get caught up with boys. And even though they felt like that was like impossible because we keep y'all in church, they don't know what go on at these schools. I'm here to tell you, they don't know what goes on at these schools.
Mm-hmm.
These kids, example, when I got pregnant from on campus,
Mm-hmm.
listening to the wrong things in life. So
Mm.
we have to be very mindful to what is in our space. So
Mm.
I'm thankful for I'm thankful for the healing. I'm thankful for the opportunity to heal because I never went to. And then one day my husband said years ago, he was like, "Well, maybe you need to go and talk to somebody." And I finally said I was going to talk to somebody, but it still didn't totally heal me until I wrote in the book.
Hmm. That's great that you said that. Now, because I asked you I stated that about you acknowledging the pain, because that's how you break the generational trauma cycles. You acknowledge the pain, stop dismissing the historical trauma as the past, and recognize its present impact today.
Hmm.
And then you just said your husband said you may need to sit down and talk to someone.
He did.
So that's the second thing we have to do. Therapy and mental health support. Seek culturally competent therapists and mental health coaches.
Hmm.
Then you have to reparent yourself, challenge unhealthy beliefs inherited from trauma based parenting, and then teach your children to process emotions in healthy ways. And that's emotional intelligence and open communication. We heal by doing those things. We heal by mindfulness and stress reduction, reducing stress responses through prayer, meditation, breath work, and self care. Rewriting the narrative is the other way we can do it, and shifting from a victim mindset to a
Yes.
victorious mindset,
Yes.
reclaiming agency over your life. In other words, you got to take your life back. Stop allowing yourself to be a victim when God has called you to be a be victorious. And you can't be victorious
Yeah.
by not acknowledging what has taken place and what's going on in your life. You're angry, you don't know why. Check your past out.
Check your past. Check
You
it. That is so very important.
You're going through different things in your life. Check your past. This stuff, you can go and do more research on this if you would like, for the people that are listening and will listen. But Dr. Turner, before we leave, because I know you have to be somewhere else. Before we leave, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you.
Well, you can reach out to me. I'm on social media as Rhonda Williams Turner. And if you are a woman that need to be empowered and have a business, you can connect with us on Women Business Connect. And if you have youth that you need education, information, because I take kids on college and historical tours around the world. Because like we said, if they don't know where they come from, how would they know where they're going? And that is under the number 4, knowledge is power. And you can reach me on email at info@forknowledgeispower.org.
There is a comment down here, Dr. Turner. It's Valerie Edgecombe. I hope
that's my WGG sister.
What is the name of the book that you wrote, and where can we purchase it?
I Am a Woman Empowered. Let me see. Do I have one of my books here? Val, I'll get that to you, and I'll put it in the link. I'll put it in the
comment.
in the comment.
And put your information there as well. That way they can go directly to it and get to you. Okay. Dr. Turner, it has been an amazing time with you, as always. And I look forward to talking to you again, because you'll be back on the show again this year for a show. I guess we just love having you here. That's why you keep coming back.
Girls night out. South Carolina and Florida. Girls night out.
So in order for you to get to your next meeting, we're going to go ahead and end. Listen, everyone, thank you so much for watching the Majestic Talk Show. I hope and I pray that something that was said today will reach you. And I hope and pray that you'll go back and look at your history and see where you can look at it, see where you can find things that are hindering you in your life, and how you can get through those things by acknowledging what you're going through and the pain behind it, seeking therapy and mental health support, reparenting yourself, and having emotional intelligence and open communication, mindfulness, stress reduction, and rewriting the narrative. Stop being a victim. That's not why we are here on this show. And talking about slavery. We're here so you can be free. That is my whole goal.
Right.
Walk in freedom. Have a nice night. Thank you so much for watching the Majestic Talk Show. I'm Latasha Morgan, certified Christian life coach, certified professional life coach, board certified master Christian mental health coach, and we'll see you next month for the Majestic Talk Show. Have a nice night, everyone.
Good night.
Talk to me, Majestic talks. Come and talk to me. Majestic Talk